In the second year after my death, I suddenly regained consciousness. My mother had found a new love and was living a happy life. My father had gotten his wish and was enjoying family bliss. My only good friend had finally stopped working herself to the bone, planned to settle abroad, and was starting her retirement early. And the man I had secretly loved for 10 years was finally holding hands with his lover, planning to walk down the aisle. They were all doing so well. I thought it was great, too. Though, occasionally, I did feel my grave was a bit lonely. The night before the wedding, I floated in midair, attending Reed's bachelor party. After a few rounds of drinks, I saw Quinn pointing her glass at Reed. Reed, honestly, I've always hated you. You shamelessly soaked up Summer's devotion and eagerness to please, completely ignoring her love and joy. But I know that if Summer were standing here today, she would sincerely wish you a happy marriage and a lifetime of happiness. So, I will wish you the same. Happy wedding. May you be happy for the rest of your lives. Hearing this, I froze. Reed's expression remained as calm as ever. Quinn, you're drunk. Just pretend I'm drunk and talking nonsense, Quinn said, downing her drink in one gulp. Anyway, Summer has been gone for 2 years. I've booked an early flight for tomorrow, so I won't be at your wedding. Quinn handed Reed 2 gift boxes. Here, including Summer's gift. Reed didn't take them. Why are you giving me Summer's gift? Why do you think? She prepared it for you a long time ago and begged me to make sure you got it. Hey, tonight is a night to celebrate. Let's not be downers. An old friend chimed in to smooth things over. I know you and Summer were close, but Summer never said she liked Reed. Besides, she's been dead for 2 years. What's the point of bringing this up? Saying all this the night before his wedding. What is the bride going to think? Quinn scoffed at that. I don't give a damn what she thinks. I haven't liked her for a long time. Don't worry, even if you can't stand the sight of me, this is the last time. Quinn slammed the boxes onto the table, turned, and walked out. I floated there, entirely at a loss. I looked at Reed, hesitated for a couple of seconds, and then chased after Quinn. Quinn, sweet Quinn, don't walk so fast. I can't keep up. When Quinn was mad, she power walked. She was tall and had long legs, so my little short legs always struggled to catch up. But every time, eventually, she would stop in a huff and wait for me. Then she'd poke my forehead and call me an idiot. It was a shame she couldn't see me now, so she would never stop and wait for me again. I didn't expect her to drive to my cemetery in the middle of the night. When I first became conscious, I could only wander around my headstone. There were no other souls like me around, so I could only sit blankly on the headstone, watching the sun rise and set. No one spoke to me, no one could see me. I often talked to myself, and occasionally I would pop up in front of people sweeping graves and make faces at them. They would chat as they walked right through my soul, and then I would scold them for being so rude. Later, one day, I suddenly found I could travel further, so I thought I'd go check on the people from my past. They were all doing great. I figured as long as they were doing well, that was enough. Whether they came to see me or not didn't really matter. Quinn brought a handkerchief. She crouched down in front of my grave and meticulously wiped away the dust. I'm sorry. I knew you were afraid of being lonely, but I still didn't come to see you for so long. Quinn sat down, leaning against my grave. I sat down too, leaning shoulder to shoulder with her. You always called yourself a coward, but actually, you were much braver than me. Look, even today, I still can't accept the fact that you passed away. I didn't buy you flowers today, and I didn't bring your favorite caramel apples. I wonder if you'll be mad at me. I hugged my knees and answered her with a big smile. I'll forgive you, since you cleaned my headstone. Summer, I'm leaving. I'm planning to settle abroad, and I probably won't come back much after this. There's nothing left here for me to hold on to. Even you are gone, so there's really no point in staying. I nodded. It's fine, go if you want to. Just follow your heart. I know you would unconditionally support any decision I make, but I still have to tell you something that might make you angry. Reed is getting married. To Brooke. I told him that you secretly loved him for 10 years. You definitely wouldn't be happy about it. But I just couldn't get over that hurdle in my heart. Not throwing my drink in their faces was already me taking the high road. I will never forget the look on Brooke's face when she stood arrogantly in front of you back then, calling you a pathetic loser, saying you threw yourself at him and deserved to be looked down upon. You never had good taste in people. Whether it was me as your friend, or your beloved Reed, honestly, we weren't considerate enough of you. A lot of times, you had to accommodate us. Summer, do people go to another world after they die? Are you happy in that world? I thought about it and answered. I don't know if there's another world, but my life right now isn't too bad. Not particularly happy, but not particularly unhappy either. Quinn, you don't need to feel guilty, and you don't need to take your anger out on Reed. He didn't do anything wrong. He just didn't like me, that's all. I always felt I was very lucky in life. My parents didn't get together out of love, but out of their own calculations. The right age, the right social standing, nothing more. They had their own careers, their own lovers, and rarely paid any attention to me. But I lived a privileged life. From childhood, I wore designer clothes and used brand name things. I never lacked for money. I was introverted and got bullied a lot in high school. But during the worst incident, I met Quinn. She bravely stepped forward, called the police, and even got hurt trying to protect me. I had no drive and was content just drifting through life. My parents didn't care about my future, and it was full of uncertainty. But Reed was outstanding. The way he stood on the stage giving a speech effortlessly captured my heart. To follow in his footsteps, I studied desperately, applied to the same college as him, and actually got in. Quinn always called me a coward. She said I had followed Reed around like a puppy for years, and he didn't even have an impression of me. So I mustered my courage and approached Reed as a high school alumni. From classmates, to friends, to close friends, that path took me a lot of time. I had thought about confessing my feelings. I even prepared a gift. But Reed had a rather unhappy childhood, and he had a deep trauma when it came to intimate relationships between men and women. So I figured I wouldn't force it. Just being friends was enough to satisfy me. Then one day, Reed went on a business trip for a week. When he came back, there was a woman by his side. Brooke, the campus goddess from our high school days. Now, she was Reed's girlfriend. At that moment, I understood that all the talk about trauma and emotional walls were just excuses. When you truly meet the right person, the walls can come down, and the shadows can be chased away. I just couldn't do it, but Brooke did. Love is truly so unreasonable. It never cares about who came first. Once you meet that specific person, everyone else becomes a supporting character. It was such a pity. I had the heart to be the main character, but only the destiny of a sidekick. It was late at night when Quinn left the cemetery. She was booked on an early morning flight the next day. Her things were all packed, and her large furniture was covered with old bedsheets. She probably wouldn't return to this house for a long, long time. Old photos of us still hung on the wall. She only took one with her and left the rest behind. After she went to sleep, I drifted along the walls, slowly admiring those old memories. Finally, my gaze settled on a little plush teddy bear in the corner. I can't believe it's been at your place. I thought I lost it when I was buried. I couldn't find it anywhere. Being a ghost meant I no longer needed sleep, nor did I feel tired. When I'd seen enough, I leaned on the balcony, reaching out to catch the moonlight. I still didn't understand why I had consciousness, even though I was dead. If people had souls after they died, why couldn't I see any other souls? This question had bothered me for a long time, but I still didn't have an answer. The next day, Quinn woke up. She wasn't woken up by her alarm clock, but by the doorbell. She went to open the door, and I curiously floated over too, afraid it was some criminal trying to commit a crime early in the morning. But when the door opened, it was actually Reed standing outside. You. Quinn stared in shock. Aren't you getting married today? Reed didn't answer that question. He was still wearing the same clothes from last night, and smelled faintly of alcohol. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. Quinn, I have a question to ask you. What? You said. He paused before continuing. Last night, you said Summer loved me. So what? Do you have proof? Hearing this, Quinn let out an exasperated laugh. Reed, you're a smart guy. Do you really need to play dumb like this? Did you genuinely have no idea whether Summer liked you or not? No idea. Reed's tone was still calm. I admit she treated me very well, but she treated you just as well. So what is this about now? Are you jealous? I just want proof. Summer has been dead for 2 years. Don't you think it's a little late to be asking for proof now? Reed stayed silent, lowering his eyes, quietly thinking for a few seconds. Finally, he whispered, "It's not too late. I just want to know for sure." "Fine. Then I'll give you your certainty." Quinn stepped aside and let Reed into the house. I knew what Quinn was going to give Reed. I just felt it was completely unnecessary. Like Quinn said, I'd been dead for 2 years, and Reed didn't even like me. Was it really that important to figure out if I liked him or not? If he kept delaying, wouldn't it ruin his wedding? In the end, Reed left Quinn's house holding the teddy bear and a small locked box. Before he left, I heard Quinn ask him, "Reed, are you not planning to attend your wedding today?" Reed clearly heard her, but he didn't answer. He just walked away without looking back. I watched his back, feeling uneasy. After thinking for a moment, I chased after him, down the stairs, into his car. His phone was sitting on the passenger seat, on silent, but I could clearly see incoming calls. Over and over again. Reed ignored them. He just sat quietly, holding the bear with both hands, staring only at the key hanging around the bear's neck. After a long time, he reached up, took off the key, and opened the small box. His hands were shaking. With a click, the lock opened. Inside was a diary. It's a little embarrassing to admit, but because of my childhood experiences, I was very sensitive to people's emotions. For example, I knew my parents didn't like me, so I tactfully kept my mouth shut around them. With my adolescent feelings having nowhere to go, I developed the habit of writing in a diary. At first, the diary was full of my fear of being bullied. Later on, Quinn's presence slowly began to appear. Those people are so scary. I want to tell the teacher, but I don't dare. My allowance for this month is gone again. Thank goodness my daily expenses aren't high. Oh my God. I met an angel today. Her name is Quinn. She's beautiful and brave and so smart. I really hope we can be friends. I want to be like her someday. Quinn bought me a caramel apple today, hee hee. It was so good. She called me an idiot, but I know she didn't mean it. Reed read carefully, page by page. But at a certain page, he stopped for a long time. I was a little too embarrassed to peek, because I could guess he was probably looking at the entries about my crush on him. There was one thing I had never even told Quinn. I didn't initially fall for Reed because he was outstanding, or because he was the campus heartthrob. It was just because he helped me. During physical education class, I was on my period. It was hot, my pants were thin, and I leaked. I actually heard people whispering behind my back, but I was in so much pain, my lower abdomen cramping into a knot, that I could only squat on the ground, afraid to move, trying to ride out the pain before dealing with the mess. But Reed stepped up. Maybe his original intention wasn't really to be kind and help me. Maybe it was just because I was squatting in the shade nearby, and the gossip of those people reached his ears and ruined his mood. Regardless, he handed me his jacket and told me to go clean up. I was almost in tears at the time, my voice as quiet as a mosquito's. My stomach hurts. I don't dare move. Then I'll take you to the nurse's office? He barely hesitated. Without waiting for me to agree, he just grabbed my arm, pulled me onto his back, and walked toward the clinic. The whole thing took less than 10 minutes, but to this day, I still clearly remember the scene from that day. Later, when I grew up, I realized it was just a minor incident. Teenage girls almost all face that kind of embarrassment at some point. It passes and you move on. But back then, Reed's weight in my heart became no less than Quinn's. Quinn protected my safety. Reed protected my dignity. Reed read very quickly. It only took him half an hour to finish the thick diary. High school was the most awkward period of my entire life. I was quiet, withdrawn, and submissive. But because I met Quinn and Reed, they decorated my bleak adolescence and made it colorful. Quinn always stayed by my side, pulling me forward. Reed became my motivation to chase the future. Whenever I was exhausted, just looking at him from afar gave me courage again. Quinn always said I was stupid and naive. In my relationships with them, whether with her or with Reed, I was always the one who gave more. Neither she nor Reed were actually as perfect as I made them out to be in my head. They had a ton of flaws, and I was the only one who treated them like treasures. When I was bullied back then, plenty of classmates saw it, but Quinn was the only one who stood up for me. During physical education class that day when I had my accident, the other students were laughing at me, but Reed gave me his jacket and carried me to the nurse's office. You treated me well. So I wanted to treat you well too. Wasn't that how it should be? As for whether our emotional investments were equal, it really didn't matter. Because I had experienced making earnest handmade Mother's Day and Father's Day cards in kindergarten, only for my parents to throw them mercilessly into the trash. I had also experienced carefully plating dishes I cooked, only for my parents to look at them in disgust and treat them like garbage. So I understood that sometimes my one-sided kindness was actually a burden and a hassle to others. Therefore, to me, just having someone willing to accept my efforts and acknowledge them was enough. The sky was now completely bright. Reed's phone screen hadn't gone dark. People kept calling him constantly. He set the bear aside and finally started the engine. I thought he was rushing back to be the groom, and I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. With so many guests invited to this wedding, he couldn't just stand them up. But looking at his route, it didn't seem like he was going to the hotel. The scenery along the road became more and more familiar, and I finally realized he was heading to the cemetery. Reed. I panicked. What exactly are you trying to do? If you don't go now, you'll miss the wedding. Even if you go to the cemetery, all you can do is stare blankly at my headstone. What's the point? Don't forget, the person you love is Brooke. Reed wouldn't answer me. When the car arrived at the cemetery, he grabbed the bear and the diary and got out. He looked like it was his first time there, unfamiliar with the place. He even specifically asked the groundskeeper for the location of my grave. I couldn't read his emotions. I only saw him walking up the steps with steady strides. Sunlight pierced through the thick clouds. Reed looked up and froze. I followed his gaze and smiled proudly. How is it? Beautiful, right? A prism was embedded in the center of my headstone. Whenever the sunlight hit it, a rainbow would form. My original intention was that, even though I was dead, I didn't want the people visiting me to feel sad. I hoped that when they saw the rainbow, they would feel that their memories with me were warm and colorful. It was a shame that after 2 years of being dead, Reed was still the very first person to see this sight. You don't know this, but the groundskeepers here love my grave. They always say mine is the prettiest. I drifted over and sat on the headstone. Reed walked over at a leisurely pace and finally stopped in front of my grave. He reached out his hand, passing it through the rainbow. The sunlight illuminated his fingers, making them look translucent, and I couldn't resist reaching out to touch him. Of course, it was still just empty air. His phone rang again. This time, Reed answered it. It was Brooke. Reed, what the hell are you doing? Today is our wedding. If you didn't want to get married, you should have said so earlier. Disappearing on such an important occasion and leaving everything to me. Are you crazy? Brooke? Reed held the phone, but his eyes were fixed solely on my portrait on the headstone. At our high school graduation, the person who hugged me, it wasn't actually you, was it? The other end of the line was quiet for 2 seconds, and then Brooke's voice grew louder. What do you mean? You're bringing this up now? Does it even matter? Reed said, it matters a lot. That person, it was actually Summer, wasn't it? You lied to me, didn't you? Brooke fell silent. That night, nothing actually happened between us, did it? Reed, I'll explain all of this to you slowly. Brooke said with difficulty. Can you just come back first? Brooke, Summer loved me. Reed began to tremble uncontrollably. I watched as he slowly hunched over, his voice thick with sobs. I never knew until today. She loved me. Yes, Summer loved you. She loved you for years. Brooke shrieked. But so what? I've stayed by your side all these years. Have I given you nothing? Reed, how could you do this to me? I didn't do anything to you. The only person I've wronged is Summer. I stood helplessly in front of the grave, staring blankly at the scene. Reed, please don't cry. I said foolishly. My love for you was my own business. I didn't mean for you to take responsibility for it. Besides, I've been dead for so long. Any love is in the past now. I did fantasize about being with Reed forever. If we couldn't be lovers, being friends was fine too. I simply loved him. Based on that premise, as long as he was happy, that was all that mattered. So even when I found out he was with Brooke, and I went crazy with jealousy, I told myself that, even if human nature was inherently ugly, I didn't want to truly become ugly. Reed wasn't my property. He had the right to pursue love, and his lover absolutely didn't have to be me. I completely gave up on pursuing Reed when I learned that he and Brooke got together after a messy, drunken night. Regardless of what happened between them, Reed wasn't repulsed by being intimate with Brooke. She had managed to do something that every woman who liked Reed, including me, had failed to do. She had proven how special she was to him. Just from that, I knew I didn't have what it takes to compete with her. So, Reed, just as I told Quinn, you don't need to feel guilty for being unable to return my feelings. The emotional investment between people can never be 100% equal. You just didn't love me. You didn't wrong me. Reed ultimately didn't marry Brooke. That highly anticipated wedding turned into a massive joke. I sat by the grave with Reed, watching the sunset fade away. The prism could no longer project that beautiful rainbow. Even though I knew Reed couldn't hear me at all, I kept trying to persuade him to go back. He had to clean up that huge mess eventually. He couldn't just ignore his massive company, either. Also, I was actually a little curious about what had happened between him and Brooke. I knew that sometimes I had masochistic tendencies, constantly replaying memories that caused me pain, but I tried my best to control it. So I never asked about his relationship with Brooke. After he was no longer single, I tried my hardest to maintain the proper boundaries of a qualified female friend, and I rarely even contacted him. After all, I didn't like Brooke, and Brooke didn't like me. Summer. I suddenly heard Reed call my name. What is it? I turned to ask him. I used to always call you silly. I nodded. You and Quinn both said that. But as it turns out, you were very brave. Reed gave a self-deprecating smile. I was the real fool. You're not a fool. You're so smart. I counted Reed's good points on my fingers. You were the valedictorian. You're handsome, smart, you have a great body, you can cook, you can clean the house, you even know how to knit scarves. You're practically perfect. You have absolutely zero flaws. I nodded emphatically. Why didn't you tell me that you loved me? I stayed quiet, then smiled. I was afraid that if I put it out there, we wouldn't even be able to be friends. Reed, I'm very cowardly. When I was little, I was a courageous kid too. But my courage slowly disappeared after being rejected by my parents time and time again. Later, when I grew up, right up until I died, the only two brave things I ever did were becoming friends with Quinn and becoming friends with you. The sky went completely dark. Reed finally stood up. He held the bear by its arm and slowly walked back. After a few steps, he looked back. For a brief second, I almost thought he saw me. But ultimately, he just calmly looked away. Reed, what exactly are you thinking? I have been your friend for so many years, and I thought I knew every little detail of your life inside and out. But today I realized I didn't know you nearly as well as I thought I did. Reed and Brooke broke up. They were just one step away from getting married, so breaking up naturally entangled a lot of things. But Reed cut ties quickly and decisively. Brooke was hysterical, crying and screaming. Her family yelled too, saying Brooke's reputation was ruined by him, and demanding he take responsibility. Reed simply moved. There were a few vice presidents at his company to handle the business operations. He only needed to steer the general direction and didn't even need to go into the office every day. So Brooke's family couldn't find him at all. Everyone guessed that Reed had hidden out abroad. But he hadn't. Not only did Reed not go abroad, he actually went back to his hometown. The city I thought he would never set foot in for the rest of his life. I had heard Reed hint obscurely that his mother used to entertain clients right in the apartment they lived in. A cramped one-bedroom place, barely enough for two people. Reed's bed was on one side, and the area where she brought men was on the other. She never hid it from him. Even though Reed knew to make himself scarce ever since he was old enough to understand, leaving the apartment every time his mother brought a man home. Those events still left a massive trauma on him. Even when he was in elementary school, he would spot familiar faces among the parents visiting for open house. They were all his mother's clients. That was why he loathed any physical contact with people and was a germaphobe who wished he could shower 8 times a day. I didn't know these things at first. I just thought Reed was aloof. When I found out later, all I felt was heartbreak for him. Even as we grew closer, I carefully monitored my distance from him, afraid to get too close lest I make him uncomfortable. He said this city held all his wretchedness, and he would never come back. So, Reed, why did you come back? Naturally, Reed wouldn't answer my question. I followed him, watching him check into a hotel and then take a cab to our old high school. I actually hadn't been back in years either, so looking at it now made me feel a bit nostalgic. My house was right next to the school. This neighborhood was originally built specifically for the wealthy. It was in the best school district in the city, less than a 20-minute drive from the city's top hospital, and filled entirely with luxury townhouses, each easily worth over $1 million. So I wasn't surprised at all to run into my father at the school gates. I looked at the teenage boy standing next to him. I had never met him, but I knew at first glance that he was probably my half-brother. I had known about his existence for a long time. I used to envy him for receiving all of my father's affection. Back then, I thought it was because he was a boy, and my father simply favored sons. Later, I realized it was just because his mother and my father loved each other. He was the product of love. So even though he was born out of wedlock, he grew up surrounded by love and lived a much happier life than I did, the legitimate daughter. When I was very little, a kindergarten teacher told me that no parent dislikes their own child. I foolishly believed her back then. Only later did I realize how terribly wrong that was. Parents are people too, and as people, they have their own preferences. The law only requires parents to raise their children. It doesn't require them to love them. Not long after my death, my parents divorced. My father could finally bring his lover and son into his home openly. My mother went abroad with a man who had been chasing her for years. Younger than her, and relentlessly persistent. It was so strange. Since they could just choose to get divorced, why did they stay together loathing each other for so many years? It made me constantly hold out hope for familial love, thinking that if I was just a little more obedient, and then a little more, my parents would love me. Reed clearly recognized my father, but he didn't go over to say hello. I had told him that I was estranged from my parents. They hadn't even attended my funeral. I followed Reed through the school gates, but I couldn't help looking back. I watched the boy lean affectionately against my father as the two of them got into the car, laughing and talking. They had such a great relationship. It was truly enviable. I stood there in a daze for a long time. By the time I snapped out of it, Reed had walked far away. Reed, don't walk so fast. I hurried to catch up with him. Everything at our alma mater was exactly the same. As we passed the athletic field, I pointed to a leafy oak tree. Look, that's the tree where I first fell for you. I had written about it in my diary, so he definitely remembered. Sure enough, Reed walked over. He stood under that oak tree, quietly staring for a long time. But I had no idea what he was looking at. He went to the school auditorium next. In the massive auditorium, Reed sat down in the very last row. I sat down next to him. I remember you sitting in this exact seat back then, right? I would never forget the day of graduation. When it ended, the crowd surged, everyone pushing toward the exits. I was solely looking for Reed's silhouette. I didn't actually plan to do anything. I just wanted to secretly get a little closer to him. But as fate would have it, a wire short-circuited, and the breaker tripped. The entire auditorium instantly plunged into darkness. This auditorium was located in a secluded spot, surrounded by thick trees. Even during the day, the lights had to be on, or else you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. At that moment, I thought, maybe this was my only chance. It was the last day of my high school life, and even as cowardly as I was, I wanted to do something crazy just once. So I kept my head down, ignoring everything else, found the right direction, and rushed forward. I remembered the way he smelled. The day he carried me to the nurse's office, I had breathed it in the whole way. Reed. He tried to push me away, but I pushed back harder, holding on a little tighter. I love you, I said rapidly. Thank you. You might not know it, but you gave me so much courage. I hope that after you go to college, you'll have an even more brilliant life. May your future be bright, and may everything go well for you. The lights suddenly snapped back on. Clutching my heart that was practically leaping out of my throat, I fled in a panic. Later, I carefully documented that day in my diary, treating it like a treasure. I thought it was a day worth commemorating forever. But after learning about Reed's trauma, I only hated my own selfishness. So, a long time later, I flipped back to that page in the diary and wrote, Reed, I'm sorry. I lost my mind back then. I only cared about venting my own feelings and didn't know you hated physical contact so much. I never dared to ask you about it. I just hope I didn't deepen your trauma. A long time after that, Brooke appeared by Reed's side. I added another note to my diary. Reed, I'm so glad you could escape the troubles of your past and step into a new life. I am sad, but also relieved. Relieved that my reckless action back then didn't cause you permanent distress. Reed, I wish you happiness. I followed Reed as he retraced every path we had walked in the past. From high school, to college, to the tiny office building where he first started his business. For some reason, a faint sense of unease kept growing in my heart. But Reed had always been a rational person. He probably wouldn't do anything impulsive. So I comforted myself, telling myself I was overthinking things. Reed had dealt with so many trivial things lately, and he wasn't a robot. It was normal for his emotions to fluctuate. By the time he finished this journey, almost a month had passed. Brooke's family finally realized they had no leverage over Reed and gave up. Reed returned to the city and took the initiative to call Brooke. Are you calm now? Then let's talk. Brooke showed up to the meeting quickly. She was still as glamorous as I remembered, and she looked like a great match for Reed. These are the property documents for the apartment you lived in before. We'll go to the registry office in a bit and transfer the title to your name. Brooke scoffed. What is this? Compensation. Yes, Reed said. If you don't want it, then forget it. Brooke's face stiffened, but she didn't decline. But before we do that, answer a few questions for me first. Brooke looked at him coldly. What else do you want to ask? Don't you already know everything? Reed nodded. So, I really didn't ruin your innocence that night. And at the high school graduation, the person who hugged me really wasn't you. Brooke didn't speak, but her hands, resting on her lap, were twisted into knots. I finally understood. Everything between Reed and Brooke had been built on lies. You knew from the very beginning that the person was Summer, didn't you? Brooke gritted her teeth. So what if I did? She didn't have the guts. She followed you around for years, but never had the courage to confess. You two were never official. There was no reason I couldn't pursue you, right? But you lied to me. And so what? Reed, ask yourself honestly, after all these years, do you really feel absolutely nothing for me? Nothing. Reed's voice was brief but firm. Brooke raised her hand, wanting to slap him. But Reed caught her arm. When we got together, I told you very clearly that I only felt responsibility for you, not love. You were the one who agreed to it, saying that even if it was just out of responsibility, it didn't matter. Reed let go of Brooke's hand and gave a self-deprecating smile. It's truly laughable. I'm actually not a responsible person at all. I was just afraid of disappointing Summer, so I acted like a responsible person in front of her. Brooke, I believe I don't owe you anything for these past few years. You never wanted my love anyway. You wanted money, status, and a stable life, and I gave you all of that without missing a single beat. So, after today, we're even. Don't you or your family ever bother me again, understand? Brooke ground her teeth in hatred. After a long moment, she unwillingly said, Got it. After completing the title transfer, Reed and she completely cut ties. I followed Reed, watching him meet with his lawyers and liquidate his assets. The unease in my heart grew heavier and heavier. I was terrified that Reed was really going to do something wrong, take the wrong path. But I could only watch helplessly, unable to do a thing. Night fell. Reed seemed to be in exceptionally high spirits today. I watched him bustle about, running the water, tossing in a bath bomb, and pouring red wine. Finally, he carefully placed the toy bear in front of the bathtub. Only then did he take off his bathrobe and slip into the tub. Normally, with my personality, I would have definitely looked away. But tonight, I was so anxious that, even knowing it was inappropriate, I stayed right by his side. Even though I couldn't do anything. Summer. Reed looked at the bear and called my name gently. You're the biggest liar in the world. How could you lie to me for so long? How could you keep the truth from me right up until you died? But I'm not like you. Before I die, I'm going to make everything clear. So, you better listen well. I couldn't help but tense up, sitting up straight. Summer, I love you. But unlike you, I don't even know when I started falling for you. It was just one day, when I was shopping with you and Quinn. I suddenly realized I was jealous of you holding Quinn's arm. I thought right then, why are you allowed to be so close to her, But not with me. I was a coward. Even when I realized my own feelings, I didn't dare make a move. So I just kept observing. I figured, if you showed even the slightest bit of special treatment toward me, it would mean you liked me too. Then I could confess my feelings to you. But I watched for a long time, and you truly didn't treat me and Quinn any differently. Oh, wait, there was a difference. You were much more affectionate with her than with me. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I actually kissed you once. It was that year we were celebrating Quinn's birthday. You drank too much, and I took you home. It was very ungentlemanly of me. So please don't tell Quinn. She wouldn't let me off easily. I got together with Brooke after that client dinner when we drank too much. The next day when I woke up, she and I were lying in the same bed, completely naked. I was entirely repulsed at the time. I even wanted to throw up. But Brooke cried and said I took advantage of her. I was afraid that if the matter reached you, you would think I was a man of bad character. So I had no choice but to take responsibility for her. Actually, back then, I kind of hoped you would throw a fit over me dating Brooke. At least that would prove you cared about me. But you were too kind. You actually smiled and sincerely congratulated me. I was so angry at the time. And then you were gone. I was weak. I thought that if I never visited your grave, I could deceive myself into believing you were still here. Brooke said that back in high school, at graduation, she confessed her feelings to me. It was also because of that I was always so tolerant of her. I only know now that the person who confessed to me was actually you. You definitely don't know this, but you saved my life. Because that day, I was originally planning to kill myself. I was barely able to function normally anymore. I didn't have a single family member. Living felt completely pointless. But that girl, she said thank you to me. She said I would have a bright future. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have lived to see today. Summer. I can hardly imagine how happy we would have been if we were together. But it's okay. We'll be reunited soon. As Reed spoke, he reached behind him, pulled open the drawer of the vanity, and took out a pack of razor blades. Reed, no. I frantically tried to stop him, but it was in vain. I was covered in tears, desperately trying to scoop the fresh blood back into his wrists. But I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. His breathing grew weaker and weaker. His body slid down limply, and his arm accidentally knocked the bear over. It hit at just the right angle, pressing the hidden button on the bear's stomach. In the quiet bathroom, my voice finally rang out. Okay, Reed, it's Summer. I'm actually really embarrassed recording this. But I've had some things buried in my heart for a long, long time. I just wanted to say, if you don't completely hate me, do you want to try being with me? I promise, I'll be so good to you. We can go to work together, get off work together, go shopping together, cook together, and do so many things together. If you don't want to, that's okay too. Don't be afraid to reject me. Anyway, no matter what, I'll be good to you for the rest of my life. So, I just wanted to formally ask you, Reed, would you be my boyfriend? Reed thrashed about, water splashing everywhere, as he desperately grabbed the bear and hugged it tightly to his chest. He cried, his tears mixing with the bloody water. Summer, I will. His consciousness grew blurrier and blurrier. I saw a weightless spirit slowly detach from Reed's body. He looked up, his gaze landing precisely on me. Slowly, he revealed a blissfully happy smile. Summer, you came to pick me up, didn't you? He reached out his hand toward me and walked to me, step by step. This time, finally without any barriers, he pulled me into a tight, all-encompassing embrace. Summer, don't cry. From now on, forever and ever, we will never be separated again.